Prompting Strategies. Part 2. The 5 Prompt Types. Welcome back. In Part 1, you learned about the prompting hierarchy, from least intrusive to most intrusive, and why natural cues are the gold standard. You learned the 6 guidelines for effective prompting, and you understand that the goal is always to use the least intrusive prompt that works. Today, we're diving into the 5 specific types of prompts you'll actually use when teaching at job sites. Here's what we'll cover. Indirect verbal prompts. Questions and hints that guide without telling. Direct verbal prompts. Specific instructions that tell exactly what to do. Model prompts. Showing how to do the task. Partial physical prompts. Brief touch to guide movement. Full physical prompts. Hand-over-hand assistance. For each type, you'll learn what it is, when to use it, and see real examples from job coaching situations. By the end of this video, you'll be able to choose the right prompt for any situation and use it effectively. Let's start with verbal prompts. Segment 1. Verbal prompts. Indirect verbal, direct verbal, and when to use each. Verbal prompts are spoken cues that tell the person what to do. They're divided into 2 types, indirect and direct. Indirect verbal prompts. An indirect verbal prompt is a question or hint that cues the person about what to do without telling them directly. Examples. What's next? What should you be doing now? Is there something you need to complete before lunch? What comes next in your routine? How are we doing? Notice what these all have in common. They're questions. They give the person a hint, but not the full answer. Indirect verbal prompts make the person think. They have to recall what comes next. This builds independence faster than just telling them what to do. When to use indirect verbal prompts. Use them when the person knows the task but needs a reminder to move forward. Example from job coaching. Your client is making pizzas at a restaurant. They've completed spreading the sauce and they pause. They know what comes next, but they're stuck for a moment. You say, "What's next?" Or, "You've got the sauce on. What do we add after sauce?" This is enough to jog their memory. They say cheese and continue working. That's an indirect verbal prompt. You didn't tell them. You helped them figure it out. Why indirect verbal is better than direct verbal? Because the person is actively retrieving the information from their memory. They're doing the mental work. This strengthens the learning. Also, indirect verbal prompts sound more natural in a workplace. Coworkers ask each other, "What's next?" all the time. It doesn't draw attention. The limitation of indirect verbal. Sometimes the person genuinely doesn't know the answer. If you ask, "What's next?" and they look at you blankly or guess wrong, you need to move to a more intrusive prompt. That's when you use direct verbal. Direct verbal prompts. A direct verbal prompt explicitly tells the person what to do. Examples. Place the mop in the bucket. Spray the Windex on the mirror. Please start sorting the mail now. It's time to take out the trash. Place 4 pepperonis on that section. Finish mopping the floor. These are clear, specific instructions. There's no guessing. You're telling them exactly what the next step is. When to use direct verbal prompts. Use them when the person is learning a new task and doesn't know what comes next. An indirect prompt didn't work. The situation requires immediate action for safety or quality reasons. Example from job coaching. Your client is cleaning restrooms. They've finished wiping the sink and they're standing there, unsure what to do next. You say, "What's next?" Indirect verbal. You try this first. They look confused and don't respond. So you say, "Spray and wipe the toilet." Direct verbal. You gave them the answer. They immediately start spraying the toilet. The direct prompt worked. Direct verbal is more intrusive than indirect, but it's still subtle. You're not touching them. You're not showing them. You're just using your voice. In a workplace, this can sound like normal communication between coworkers. Key principle. Always try indirect before direct. If a question works, use it. Only move to direct instructions if the indirect prompt fails. Why? Because you're training yourself to give less help over time. If you always jump straight to telling them what to do, you're doing more work than necessary. Start with a question. Move to an instruction only if needed. Model prompts. A model prompt is when you demonstrate or show the person how to perform the task. You do it while they watch. Then they try it. There are two ways to use modeling. Option 1. You do it first, then they do it. Here's how you fold this towel. Watch me. You fold one towel while they watch. Now you try. Option 2. You do it alongside them at the same time. You stand next to them and you both perform the task together. They're watching you and copying your movements in real time. Both are model prompts. Both work. Choose based on the situation and the person's learning style. Use models when verbal prompts aren't working. The task involves a physical skill that's easier to show than explain. The person learns better by watching than by listening. Example from job coaching. Your client needs to learn how to sweep crumbs out of a corner and into a dustpan. You've tried verbal prompts. Sweep the crumbs toward the dustpan. They're struggling. The angle isn't right. The crumbs keep scattering. So you model it. You take the broom and dustpan and demonstrate. Watch how I angle the broom and sweep in this direction. They watch. Then they try it. They get it right because they saw how to do it. That's the power of modeling. Another example with pepperoni placement. Your client is making pizzas. They're struggling to place the pepperonis evenly. You say, "Hey, you need to put 4 pieces of pepperoni on that section. Here's how it's done." You place 4 pepperonis on your pizza section, showing the spacing and placement. Then you say, "Okay, now you try." They copy what you just showed them. Problem solved. Why modeling is more intrusive than verbal? Because you're now physically demonstrating the task. You're adding a visual component. But it's still less intrusive than touching the person or doing it for them. Modeling respects their ability to learn by watching. You're showing competence. I believe you can do this if you see how it's done. Now we're moving into the most intrusive category, physical prompts. Physical prompts involve touching the person to guide their movement. This is a big step up in intrusiveness, so you only use physical prompts when everything else has failed. Partial physical prompts. Partial physical assistance is brief physical contact with the employee to elicit a response. You're not doing the task for them. You're just guiding them toward the correct movement. Examples. Tapping their elbow to cue them to reach for the mop. Touching their shoulder to guide them toward the correct workstation. Gently guiding their wrist to show the angle needed for wiping a counter. The key word here is brief. You touch, you guide, then you immediately release. As soon as they start the correct movement, you let go. Example from job coaching. Your client needs to place their hand on the mop handle and start mopping. You've tried. Indirect verbal. What do you need to do now? Didn't work. Direct verbal. Grab the mop. They looked at it but didn't reach. Model. You showed them how to grab the mop. Still didn't work. So you use partial physical. You tap their elbow and guide their hand toward the mop handle. The moment their hand touches the mop, you release. They take over and start mopping. That tap on the elbow was the partial physical prompt. You didn't grab the mop for them. You just helped their hand get started. Important note about consent and comfort. Physical prompts require trust. Before you ever use physical prompting, you need to have established rapport. Remember video 1? Explain what you're going to do. I'm going to gently guide your hand to help you get started, okay? Watch for signs of discomfort and stop immediately if the person pulls away. Respect boundaries, always. Full physical prompts. Full physical assistance is full contact with the employee to help them complete the entire movement. This is hand-over-hand guidance. You're physically doing the task with them. Example: you stand behind the employee. You place your hands over their hands on the mop handle. You move the mop in the correct mopping pattern while their hands are under yours. This is the most intrusive prompt. You're fully assisting them through the task. When to use full physical prompts? Honestly, rarely. Full physical should only be used when the person has severe physical or cognitive limitations. Safety is a concern. You need to prevent injury. All other prompts have completely failed, and this is a last resort. Most of the time, you won't need full physical. Partial physical is usually enough. But in some situations, teaching someone with very limited motor control, for example, full physical is appropriate. How to fade full physical? If you start with full physical, your goal is to immediately start fading. Week 1. Full hand over hand for the entire task. Week 2. Full hand over hand for the first few steps. Then release and use partial physical for the rest. Week 3. Partial physical for the beginning, then release. Week 4. Model or verbal prompts only. You're always moving up the hierarchy toward less intrusive support. So how do you choose which prompt to use? Here's the decision process. Step 1. Always start with the least intrusive prompt. Try no prompt first. Wait. Give them a chance to figure it out on their own. Step 2. If no prompt doesn't work, try indirect verbal. What's next? Or what should you be doing now? Step 3. If indirect verbal doesn't work, try direct verbal. Place 4 pepperonis on that section. Step 4. If direct verbal doesn't work, try modeling. Watch how I do this. Step 5. If modeling doesn't work, try partial physical. Brief touch to guide them. Step 6. Only use full physical if absolutely necessary. And immediately start planning how to fade it. That's the hierarchy in action. You move down only when the level above doesn't work. And remember, as soon as a less intrusive prompt works, use that. Don't get stuck giving more help than needed just because you did it that way yesterday. If today they can do it with just an indirect verbal, use indirect verbal. Always be fading, always be reducing support. Let's review what you learned today. You now know the 5 types of prompts. Indirect verbal. Questions and hints that make them think. Direct, verbal, specific instructions that tell them what to do. Model, showing how to do the task. Partial physical, brief touch to guide movement. Full physical, hand over hand assistance. And you know the decision process. Start with least intrusive, move down the hierarchy only if needed, and always be ready to fade back up to less intrusive support. Remember, prompts should be subtle, prompts should be supportive, and prompts should be temporary. You're not there to do the job for the person. You're there to teach them how to do it independently. That's what prompting is for. In the next video, we're going to talk about fading, the systematic process of reducing your support and transferring control to natural cues. Because teaching is only half the job. Fading out successfully is the other half.